In the winter of 1914, the Western Front froze into a nightmare of mud, wire, and blood. Millions of men stared across trenches that barely moved a few yards in months. Too many generals, this was modern war. But to one man in London, it was a failure of imagination. Admiral John Jackie Fisher, the restless architect of Britain's naval power, believed the war could be won not in Flanders, but in the Baltic Sea, at the very heart of the German Empire. Fisher had already reshaped the Royal Navy before the war, creating the dreadnought and the battlecruiser. Now, watching Britain bleed in France, he asked a simple question: why fight Germany where it is strongest, when you can strike where it is weakest? Germany's industrial heart lay along the Baltic coast. Berlin itself was vulnerable from the sea. The plan was to force the Danish Straits, enter the Baltic Sea, and land a British army on the German coast of Pomerania, only a short march from Berlin. The trench deadlock would collapse. It was, in Fisher's mind, a return to Napoleonic-style decisive warfare, but executed with modern ships and technology. If successful, the war could end in months, not years. To make this possible, Fisher needed ships unlike anything afloat. He pushed for extremely fast, shallow draft battle cruisers, massive guns to overwhelm coastal defenses, but Fisher didn't want a flat battle. He wanted a knockout punch. The British Army would be operating far from supply base. Most generals preferred the grim certainty of France to the uncertainty of an amphibious invasion. Winston Churchill, then First Lord of the Admiralty, was initially intrigued, but even he hesitated. The army commanders were openly hostile. The Western Front, they insisted, was the real war. To them, Fisher's plan was reckless fantasy. To Fisher, their caution was cowardice. In 1915, Fisher returned to the Admiralty to push his vision, but events moved against him, and internal conflicts between Fisher and Churchill exploded into open crisis. By May 1915, Fisher resigned. With him died the Baltic project. The Courageous-class ships were completed, but without their original purpose. They would later fight at Jutland, a battle they were never designed for. The war returned to the trenches. What might have been 8:30 to 9:30. Historians still argue about that was not just a test of endurance, it was a test of imagination, and imagination was in short supply. The Baltic project was never launched. No British army marched on Berlin from the sea. Instead, the war dragged on for years. Millions dead, empires shattered. Admiral Fisher died in 1920, convinced that the war had been fought the wrong way. History may never know if he was right, but his plan remains one of the most daring what-ifs of the Great War, a reminder that sometimes victory is lost not on the battlefield,